are at Shelters by Jesus podcast, and we are so excited that you're with us, you're watching, you're listening, you're hitting subscribe, you're hitting like, you're sharing with your friends, because that brings money in. And if you want to help get people off the street, you go to sheltersbyjesus.com. If you'd like to give, it's $9. We'll get somebody off the street. We also have 4 books out written by the dumb hick from Skowhegan, me. And they have 2 prices. $10 are free. And you put your name and address right there. And tell if you want books 1, 2, 3, or 4, all of them. We'll mail them right out to you. You also can call the office at 207-474-8833 and give them your name and address there. And they'll ship it. But the other thing you can do is get a tour. When you call that number, say, I'd like a tour. And you'll meet the residents. You'll see everything we have. And we're just excited about you being a part of this. So now, on to the podcast. All right, we're here with Adam. I just met him a couple weeks ago. I'm so blessed. He came to our encampment. He went to with our ministry, met us in Bangor, Maine, at an encampment. And he and his girlfriend, Amanda, who was on a previous podcast. I don't know if these are coming one after the other. So anyway, if you've seen Amanda on the podcast, any of them prior, this is her boyfriend. And he was there with them. He had a boy there, his son, one of his sons, and her son, and they took part in it. And Adam, I didn't know until afterwards, shared with me that he spent time on the streets, not in Bangor, but I believe it was Portland.
Kensington, Philadelphia.
Kensington, Philadelphia. And you were at Portland too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, we are going to be blessed to hear Adam's story, and I'm so thankful you guys are listening in, and I hope you're learning something from this. I'm hoping Jesus is touching all your hearts about this ministry to those that are out there that are really, really hurting, and that they're people's kids. They're like my kids, your kids. You're thinking, oh, could never be my kid. Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of parents right now are saying that would never be my kid, and their kids are out there. So, Adam, what's your last name?
Shawley.
Shawley.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know any Shawleys. I do now, but I didn't know any before.
I got a lot of names, actually, depending on where I am.
Okay.
God's kind of blessed me with the unique ability to be a man of many hats, as Amanda would say. So in Kensington, Philadelphia, they call me Boss, short for Boston.
Oh, now why Boston?
I'm guessing because of the northern accent.
So you can park your car.
I can park my car.
There you go. All right.
I can park my whip, too.
There you go.
So, but in Maine, I'm Shawley, and then during my prison time, when I was affiliated with a gang, I went by Project.
Project.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'll try to, if I act nervous, it's because I am. So
now, there's nothing to be nervous about.
I guess, looking back and identifying it now, so I was also had my innocence stolen when I was a kid.
Okay. From
a couple male perpetrators.
Yep.
So it went on for years, and by the time I was 10 or 11, I still remember my first prayer. So I have 3 sisters that I've always had like an undying nerve to feel as if I had to protect, although I've done a lousy job.
So that don't mean you didn't want to.
Right.
Correct.
So I remember laying in my bed and crying and praying to a God that I didn't even know what to call him at the time. I didn't grow up in a religious family. So,
okay.
And I thanked God for letting this male do this to me and not my 3 sisters. Because if that was a scar that I had to wear instead of them, then I'd wear it like a badge of honor.
Okay.
All right. So later in life, in a small town in Newport, as rumors leaked, as people gossiped, and we came into teenagehood, I went into martial arts. I became a brown belt in American kickboxing and a red belt in Kung Fu. But I took all that bitter and resentment and anger from the pain when I was a child.
Yep.
And took my discipline to the street and started inflicting pain and being a complete and utter tyrant, tearing families apart, hurting people physically, emotionally, mentally. Now, jumping way forward, it led to a lot of time in prison. I've done 4 separate prison bids. First one was 2 years, then it was 4 years, then it was a year and a half, and then it was 5 years. You're talking almost 13 years. My last one being in federal prison. In 2016, I met a woman and had a child with her.
Mhm.
I was sober at the time, or pretending to be sober. She moved me to Philadelphia. Our, we were engaged, and it slowly started to fizzle out with this newborn. Looking back now is because there was no Christ in my life,
All right.
obviously.
Oh,
What
yeah,
do
I
you
got
mean?
you.
I could have blamed it on 1,000 other things, but
Yep.
that's like the sole fabric of it all. So, I discovered North Philadelphia, Kensington.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the greatest epidemic in the country right now.
Really.
So you have a 54 block radius with over 40,000 homeless people.
Mm.
Um, I was using needles on average 100, 150 times a day. Um,
Now, how did you live through that? That should have killed you, man.
I overdosed 23 times in 5 months. One of them, I was dead for 7 minutes, and they administrated 3 times the legal amount of Narcan they're allowed to give a person
Mm.
before I actually woke up. So that was like my first run-in with God. Here's what happened. So on my very last overdose, of course I went out. I don't remember nothing. I remember feeling like I was in a fetal position, and I was floating through nothingness.
Yep.
And all I could feel was that my face was soaking wet. I believe it was tears. I was crying.
Yep.
All of a sudden, I felt like my soul or my very being was cut off from everything ever loving, ever comforting. I was completely and entirely alone. There are no words to describe how I felt. And I remember crying to myself saying, God, please do not let me die alone. Please do not let me die alone.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, it felt like there was this all consuming love or this presence that just surrounded my whole entire body. And then I woke up. All right. So I ended up committing another crime, taking some firearms from my mother and father's store. Um, in hindsight, it saved my life. It sent me to federal prison. While I was in there, I was in Wyatt, Rhode Island, and I was living with a cellmate that didn't speak any English. We called him Flacco. That's just a English nickname for skinny Mexican. Okay?
Okay. All right.
It's Flacco or it's Gordo.
Yep.
They slid a pamphlet under my door that had my name written on the top of it, and it said, "Ways to properly grieve." I'm thinking, why did they give me this? It was a pastor that delivered it.
Really?
So I knock on his door and I get his attention. I go, "What's this for?" And he's like, "You're Adam Charlie, right?" And I go, "I am, yeah, unfortunately." He's like, "Nobody's come to talk to you?" And I'm like, "No." And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I have a father that was sick. I
Mm.
already knew. I'm like, my father's gone. I know he is. So that night, 2000, January 21st, 2021, I was in this room with a Spanish guy that couldn't speak. I was hurting. The victim of my crime, my father. I've never got a chance to apologize or say sorry. So I carry this 2-ton suitcase of just shame and guilt with me. And I decided to use. And when I used, I still continued to cry. And the Mexican said, he goes, "Why did you do that?" Like, he's like, "Did it make you feel better?" And I go, "No, not at all." He's like, "I don't get it." And I pondered on it, and I sat there, and this Mexican to this day still doesn't understand the effect that he had on my life.
Mm.
He gave me a hug, and I sat there and cried on this 45-year-old man's shoulder for about 45 minutes. And I told myself, I promised myself, I'm never, God, if you are real, remove this thirst. No longer am I asking you to remove. I'm telling you, remove the thirst for drugs and alcohol from my life. I do not want it no more. From that day on, I've never had a drug dream. I've never thought about using. He took a 23-year extreme heroin addiction and wiped it from my body in its entirety.
Now, how long have you been clean, Adam?
5 years.
Wow.
Yep.
God bless you, man.
Yep.
That's a
I
testimony.
celebrate 3 years on the 21st because I had relapsed the night that my father died 3 years ago. But I have 5 years of sobriety.
All right. So you tripped out, but you didn't stay in it.
No.
Okay. Okay.
And so when I went to federal prison, I was in a real bad area. I was in USP Hazleton. It's the worst federal prison in the country. Um, a year sentence very well could be a death sentence there. And I remember calling my mother, and I'm talking to her, and she's talking about God, and I didn't want to hear it. And I said to her, Mom, there is no God here. You're not seeing what I'm seeing. And she said to me, shame on you, Mr. Shawley. Remember, it's greater is he who lives within you. And I went back to my cell, and I just thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And I told Amanda I was going to say this because there's lyrics to a song, and it's true. I went back to my cell and I cracked open the Bible. I had read it 2 times in its entirely,
Really?
and nothing ever really hit.
Yeah.
It was just a story to me. You know what I mean? It was a good story.
Yeah. Well,
I
without Christ,
believed
it
parts
isn't.
of it.
Yep.
I believed that Christ was real, but I had a lot of questions. I'm one of them guys that try to put science to it. So I spent a lot of time doing different religions. Took my Shahada as a Muslim at one point. I was a Messianic Jew. I've tried everything. And I went, and the lyrics are, he said that them red letters hit my dead heart. I sprang to life and I changed up. Now I'm 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
And F said that. And it's like, that's literally what happened. I went back, and when I read my Bible, all of a sudden it just made perfect sense. And I had no plans on getting out and serving the Lord. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I questioned myself, am I going to go back to my old ways? Because I've tried this before, but it was entirely different. As soon as I went home, um, he started convicting me. I love action movies. Watching the first 3 John Wicks. Couldn't wait to see the fourth one. I put it on and try watching it, and I keep turning my head away from it, thinking, why can't I watch this movie? I've tried 2 or 3 times since, and he just won't let me watch it
Okay.
because it's not pleasing to the Lord. He doesn't want you to see pornography or murder or none of this. And it's like
Yep.
I finally started to get it. Every Christian song that I listened to felt like it was just tearing my heart out.
Mm.
I got a 13-year-old son, Brody.
Now he's the one that helped at the encampment, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Super proud of him. And 13-year-olds are hard, man. And
Yeah.
that's a funny age. It's like
Yep.
if they even wake up and say good morning to you, you know what I mean? You're doing
Yep.
the right thing. So
There
it's
you
like
go.
it's hard, but it's like I just really actions speak so much louder than words. It's true. And it's like I can sit here and tell them about God and tell them about Christ, but then how am I to turn around and not do the right thing? So, here it is 6 months later, and he's seeing how serious it is to me.
Yep.
He saved my life so many times, man. I mean, so many times. There is nothing that you can do to compromise my faith in God ever. I am unbreakable, uncrushable, untouchable.
So I'm going to ask you the question I asked Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
I think you probably more experienced at it than she has, even though her experiences were horrible. But
Mm-hmm.
what was your experience like? If somebody's, I know people watching this are trying in their minds to figure out what it's like to people on the street, because they keep telling them they're somebody's kid, they're somebody's daughter, son, daughter, whatever, and stop looking down on them and try to help them. What was your experience on the street as far as how people looked at you? What did you think about it? How did you survive? Those types of things.
Okay, so I mean, first of all, addiction and homelessness has no picks. It doesn't care who you are, what your occupation is. You can be a lawyer, a doctor. I've seen all walks of life. It does not care who or what you are.
Yep.
You understand? So it's like black, white, red, indifferent. It makes no difference. In Kensington, the day-to-day struggle was, I slept out there. I went 5.5 months without a shower. Cellulitis in my feet, endocarditis, lung and heart infection, using the bathroom between vehicles in the middle of the street. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because looking back at it, it almost seems like it was just a bad dream. You know what I mean? But I never want to forget that I was there. The the shame that you carry with that, people don't understand what it takes for a full grown adult to stand out there in their own filth or be hungry or be dope sick and beg another person walking by for money. I mean, you can't get any lower, man. You really can't get any lower. And it's like, by the grace of God, it's like, I don't know what it was that actually saved me. I mean, God had proved to me that I didn't have a rock bottom. I overdosed 23 times.
Mm-hmm.
He already showed me that your rock bottom is death. You know what I mean? But man, it's like I wish I had encouraging words or something that I could tell you to not make you be homeless. It's like, but I do know this, like Amanda said, my ministry is in them streets, in the trenches for sure.
Yep.
Because when you were talking about starting your ministry with peanut butter sandwiches,
Yep.
I was the person that received that peanut butter sandwich. You understand? We used to call the people in Kensington that came and passed out food. We didn't even know who they were. We referred to them. We would yell to all the other homeless people, "The angels are here."
Really?
Yeah,
That's how you viewed a sandwich.
yeah.
So
When they pulled up,
that's
we'd
what
all
I
sit with
say.
their
You
gift
don't
bags. We'd
understand.
say, "The angels are here."
When you watch us and we put a cry out, we head for the encampments. You don't understand if you haven't been there, because I don't understand what it means to show up with whatever we show up with.
Mhm.
They don't. It's hard to get that across. That's why I wanted somebody that's actually been there on the receiving end
Mhm.
to give their idea of what it's like to. Like when we come now, we're going to get a big sign on there. It says Shelters by Jesus Mobile Emergency Unit. What it would mean to see that pull up to an encampment, knowing that there's food, there's clothing, there's tents.
It's amazing. So it's because what you don't understand is that addiction is a disease of decision making. So you can have money in your pocket and be starving, but not have the capacity to buy food and instead buy drugs because you're unable to make that decision. So when people show up and instead they don't have that choice, the hot food is there, the
Right.
clean socks is there. You understand where I'm going with it?
Well, you told a story to me about getting clean socks and the condition of your feet. Willing to share that?
The most important thing out there being homeless. The homeless is not for the meek. And people that are standing out there are beyond tough. You have no idea what it's like to truly weather the storm, to sleep in Arctic weather, to wake up on the pavement with your bones aching, cellulitis in your feet, unable to wash up. Like clean socks mean the world. That was the number one gift down in Kensington.
That's what I wanted you
Was
to
clean
share, because
socks.
I know people thinking a pair of
Even
socks.
above the food, the clean socks. The not having a house to go sit down in or being welcome anywhere because you stink, and being able to kick your shoes off and put on clean socks, crazy. That's why I brought these for when I cried.
Yeah. Oh, that's all. Well, this is very important, and I know it. There's a lot of Christians, and that's what I'm really pushing hard for the churches to step up. You know, this is so much more than going to church on Sunday. What we're doing, and it has to be. And you and Amanda both said that when we head out to Portland, if it worked out so you could, you guys be willing to go with us and help minister down to the streets in Portland too.
Yeah, there ain't no working it out. We work around that.
Okay.
That comes first.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, God has definitely given you guys a heart for the hurting,
Mhm.
because you've been the hurting.
Mhm.
I like how Paul put it. He says, you know, I suffered a lot, but he said, then I realized God allowed me to suffer what I suffer so I can understand and help you,
That's right.
because I can feel your suffering.
Amen.
And very few people can grasp the suffering of being on the street. I can't. I'm not going to sit here and BS you and go, hey, dude, man, I know what you're going through. I feel you.
Mhm.
Well, I don't.
Mhm.
You know, I can't say that and walk out of here tonight, go home to a hot meal and a home with a bed. And I've never known anything different my entire life.
Mhm.
You know, we've been poor when it was spaghetti was just butter on it, but it was hot food and there was always a shower. I could always get clean.
That's right.
I can't put myself in your shoes. That's why I need, like you and Amanda and others that have been on here, to relate that to folks so that they can get a better grasp. If those watching this are never going to understand unless they've been on the street. Now I'm not,
Right.
but they can get a heart for it even if they don't understand it. Because I got a heart for it.
Mhm.
You know, the day we was there, that we took those sandwiches and I passed out my last one, and I thought we had everybody covered, and we're starting to walk away, and a guy comes running to me. He says, sir, so he said, I heard you're passed out sandwiches, peanut butter sandwiches. And I said, I just gave up my last one. And he said, that's okay. God bless you for caring enough to come. And I turned to my wife, and she'll tell you my exact words. That will never happen again.
That's right.
Never happen again. Then I went home and I go, I know now how much a peanut butter sandwich means to people,
Mhm.
because of that one instance when I didn't have one to give out. So, yeah, having you and Amanda and the boys there in Bangor, I want to thank you guys for being a part of that, man. And your boys, I was so proud of those two boys.
Yeah.
I mean, they stayed there over 2 hours dead ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking, like you said, teenagers are a different breed.
They are.
You know, there was 2 teenage boys that just gave and gave and gave that day. And I won't be shocked if they come again sometime either.
Oh yeah, they'll definitely be coming with us. I'll
And,
take them out of school to come.
and I want people to understand, Bangor Christians, where they go to school, both of them, right?
No, my son's in public school.
Okay, well,
Her son's in Bangor Christian.
all right. So the public school let him go too, then, or he just took the day.
No, I excused it. They didn't.
Okay.
Well, that's all right.
Well, I know Bangor Christian did excuse it, right, Amanda? Because
we're considering Bangor Christian right now. We're trying to work out rides.
yeah, well, I'm not trying to send your kids to Christian school,
I am, though.
but what I'm saying is, I appreciate the fact that Bangor Christian did say, "Oh, you're going to go help the homeless." They showed the Christian act, said, "Go ahead," and they dismissed her from school. Mm-hmm. And as you're watching this, the principal of Bangor Christian is Amanda's sister, the lady who was on just before. That's her big sister. So it's all the way around a big circle, and it's what a blessing this has been for us to be a part of all of this. So where are we at on time, bud? We're at 20. All right. What I'm going to ask, I would like to have you, if there's something on your heart you'd like to share, a short thing, a minute or two, to go ahead and share that before I close out. If I haven't covered everything enough, and you're going, man, I wish he'd asked me this question, and give me a chance to say it.
Man, talk about putting me on the spot, Pastor Ray.
Well, that's all right. That's what I do. That's what pastors do. We're mean old buggers, and when you're 75 years old, you've learned to be really mean for a long time. But that's okay, because you've shared so much. I just didn't want to end the podcast, you walk out the door and go, if he didn't give me 30 seconds, I'd have said this.
I'll say this. If you need somebody to talk to, or if you think that somebody doesn't care, call me, Project Adam, Charlie, 207-659-6828, because I do care, and I love you very much.
Awesome. Now that's a way to close out a podcast. All right, folks, you ain't going to get any better than this. Thank you for watching. Again, don't forget to subscribe and like, because that brings money and helps these folk help us do what we're doing. If you ever want to go on one of these journeys with us, we're going to be hitting the street, our mobile unit, and we'd love to have you. We've had, as you heard, teenagers go. Everybody that's got a heart can go. And watch my Facebook page. I list when we're going, what times we're leaving here, when we're going to arrive there, the whole 9 yards. Join us anytime. And so until my next podcast, y'all come back now here.